Welcome to Essex with Truth Talks. Thank you for tuning in for another episode. Greatly appreciate all the support we've been getting. Can't thank you enough. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. If you're listening via audio on your audio podcast app, please subscribe. If you're watching via YouTube, please subscribe. And again, thank you for all your support. So let's talk today. I want to talk a little bit about pain, something that I think all of us can relate to. Something that I think, especially in these times, that us ourselves are going through something, whether it's happening to us directly or if it's to somebody we connected to, but we all understand pain. So I want to take it, there's pain that hurts and pain that impacts. And I think that we have to do a better job teaching the generation coming up and also teaching ourselves and helping each other understand the difference between pain that hurts and pain that impacts. Pain that hurts could be something as simple as, stubbing your toe. And then pain that impacts could be the same thing, same exact event. You stub your toe and then it gets infected. You get an infection in your bone. You get your toenail taken off. That's actually something that happened to me. That's why I use that as an example. But then that impacted me for months dealing with an infection. So it is known in almost every neighborhood, every household, rich or poor, that boys don't cry. And that's something that we teach boys early on. And from what I understand, more now these days, especially over when I was coming up, like with my sister, that even these days, girls are being taught with that same fervency of don't cry. We're trying to toughen our kids up because we understand how painful life is. Anybody my age, I'm 44. Anybody my age or older is gonna understand this. I don't know younger, but if we cried about something that, let's say, didn't deserve a crying, right? Your parent, you wanted something from the store and your parent didn't buy it and you break out in a cry. We heard statements like, if you don't stop crying, I'm gonna give you something to cry about, right? Never understood that at a child. It's like, what you mean? I'm crying, so you're gonna inflict me for being hurt? But the mindset behind that was, we trying to teach children to not lose it, to not go into fits because they didn't get something they want. And the key of, I actually got whooped for crying about something small and then challenged the fact that I would get whooped and be given something to cry about, and actually got whooped. And I will tell you, as a kid, it taught me, there's worse things than me not getting something at the store, right? I'm not saying that that's the best way to teach kids or anything like that. I'm just giving you a historical preference, an historical place of reference of where I came from as a kid growing up. And talking to parents now, I know parents are still, we all try to. In ministry, we try to. In real life, we try to. Raising kids. If you raising one of your siblings because of a circumstance or situation, we try to teach the children that, hey, look, life is tough. So we try to toughen everybody up for it. The downside of trying to toughen kids up. Now, I think kids do have to learn how to be tough, right? You have to learn how to share. You have to learn how not to get your way. The downside of focusing so hard on toughening children up is most people, most kids, especially if you come from a household that don't believe in counseling, don't believe you talk to anybody outside, you don't talk about nothing personal outside the home, or don't have the resources for counseling, you don't find out about mental and emotional pain until you going into teenagehood almost as an adult. Then you find out that something's going on. Perfect example. Excuse me. You will see fathers leave the home, right? So you'll see fathers leave the home and then a kid will start acting out. And then they dig deep and they come to find out the kid's acting out because they miss their father or their mother. They miss their parent, whether the father or the mother leaves voluntarily or whether the father and mother passes away. A kid, even young, will start acting out without even knowing why they're acting out. They'll know they're hurt, but they won't be able to relate the two. And then, the kid goes to counseling, or the kid starts to get older and they're able to articulate the fact that I guess that's why I'm acting a fool, because I'm hurt here, and I don't really know how to handle it or what to do. And that's one of the main things that we do, is we try to fix having pain that impacts us. Pain that hurts is pain that hurts. You go through something, you slam your finger in the door, you go through something over here, over here. It's a one-time incident. Happens to you once, causes hurt that one time, never changes or impacts your life at all. We're talking about pain that impacts. Denzel has a famous saying in The Equalizer 2 at the beginning. He tells the dude, there's pain that hurts and pain that alters. And the challenge of having pain that impacts is not understanding the mental and emotional side of the impact of that pain. The other challenge is everybody impacts different, right? You'll have a kid who mother passes away, and the kid never shows any signs, misses their mother, cries, hurts, but never acts up in school, never acts out, never gets in trouble, goes on to live their life, and it never impacted them whatsoever. But not every kid is like that. And I think that that's also a challenge when you have a household with multiple kids, where you have to adjust from kid to kid. It's just we have a tendency to address the pain we're going through with more pain. So if you think about it, the first time I acted out as a kid, I was born with this autoimmune disease, and it makes me really sick. Wasn't supposed to live to definitely see the age that I'm at now. And I'm gonna do some episodes on that disease and walk everybody through like everything I've been through in my life, from that angle. But I started acting out like around 17, 18, right? And I did things to help mend the pain of what I was going through. But the things I did ended up causing me more pain in the long run. And I think that if you look around, there are a ton of us, kid, teenage, adult, older adult, that are treating pain with things that just create more pain for our lives. Example, people will treat their pain that they're going through, mental, emotional, and sometimes physical, with drugs, right? You treat your pain with drugs, you feel better, but then the drugs end up causing you other pain in other areas of your life. You get drug tested, you lose your job. On drugs, you crash your car, you lose your license. There's so many examples probably anybody listening to this has of treating pain with something that just caused you more pain. But the way we're taught and the way that society continues to teach us, and I think that we got to have a conversation around, is pain that impacts us. Not dealing with it is the biggest issue, right? And accepting the fact that pain can hurt. If you look up the word pain in the dictionary, the first definition still does not talk about mental or emotional. It talks about being under distress, being injured or hurt, right? It doesn't talk about mental and emotional pain until you get further down the definition. And what's challenging about that is a lot of people's pain is mental and emotional. A lot of people don't show weakness on the outside. They stuff everything in and they stuff it down. And then that in turn causes them to start having issues. It's the reason why anxiety and panic attacks are higher than they've ever been. The numbers for people who suffer from anxiety and panic attacks are higher than they've ever been, because more and more people are stuffing things down on the inside or trying to cover them up. We have a tendency to alter our life if we're impacted by pain. Example, you fall in love, you love somebody, they break your heart, they treat you a certain way. The way to allow that to not impact your life ever again in life is to never fall in love again. It's why you hear a lot of people say, I'll never get married. I'll never give my heart to one person. It's because either they've seen the pain it causes or they've experienced the pain it caused it. But for most people who say that, they don't want to be single. Like they want to be married, but they would rather endure the pain of not getting married or not falling in love. They rather endure that than endure the pain of falling in love, giving your heart to somebody and it getting broke. And it's a challenge. So we have to look at pain. So the word suffering is defined as when one is consistently under pain and in pain. That's where the word suffering comes from. So we have to look at pain that impacts us. We have to look at it like a incurable disease, right? So if you had a cut or a scab, right? So let me back up. So the disease I was born with, it's an autoimmune disease. It's not curable, right? Nobody's ever been cured from it. It's not curable. Everybody dies from it. I'm the healthiest. They actually had my blood. I don't know. It's in Germany now, I think, being tested. So they don't understand why I'm one of the healthiest, but I am. The thing with my disease, though, is it has ways of reminding me, hey, I exist in your life, constantly getting infections, battling different things that come with the disease. That is just like a reoccurring thing. So for a lot of people, they experience pain in an incurable way. Some people never recover mentally or emotionally from something they go through. Now, the difference between having an incurable disease and getting hit with some type of pain that impacts you is there are ways to become healthy when pain has hit you and it's hard to recover. There's counseling. For me, it was the Lord. It was prayer. That was the only thing that worked for me when I dealt with depression, anxiety, and panic attacks, which I still battle with from time to time. The Lord is the only thing that ever worked for me. But there's counseling, there's medicine, there's, if you have spiritual grounding, me, it was the Lord. And there's other ways. But there's a reason why marijuana is the number one used drug and opiates is the number two drug, right? If you look at all the other drugs in the world, meth, coke, alcohol, they're all drugs that enhance energy, speed you up, make you want to go out and do stuff. Well, most people in pain, physically, mentally, or emotionally, they don't want to do nothing. So you can smoke weed or you can take opiates. And that's why people get addicted to opiates, right? They get an injury. They start taking the opiate pills. The doctor's like, okay, your pain should be done. And the kid or the person, the adult, is still addicted to the pain free that they feel emotionally and mentally from being on opiates, and then they switch to heroin. What those two numbers, marijuana and opiates, should teach us. And I love how, we're trying to make laws, trying to help kids, we're trying to do everything until we deal with poverty, the pain of life, people with lack of resources ending up in more pain. Until we deal with those aspects, the drug numbers are going to continue to be. And you have a lot of people that feel, that marijuana is better than taking an anxiety drug or a drug for depression or a drug that helps with panic attacks. And it's hard to argue what works for a person. I've been through multiple different stages of being treated. And for me, ultimately, what works for me is my relationship with the Lord. Yes, medicine has worked for me, but it always has seemed like a Band-Aid where I need God to come in and touch my life. And it's the reason why when I witness, I really don't have to have the Bible and, say this scripture and this happened. I just tell people what he did for my life. But everybody's is different. But the thing that is difficult is from parenting to the way doctors move to the way teachers move is everybody treats with a cookie cutter response. And that's what the whole, boys don't cry or be strong or you need to get over it. That's where all that comes from. It's a cookie cutter response and it doesn't work for everybody. You have parents that know I can talk to this kid. I can say one statement to this kid and they'll know how to change up. I got to spend time with this kid to do it. I got to punish this kid to do it. I got to take this kid to counseling. So there's differences. So imagine you got all these adults running around, right? You got all these adults running around that have been through continuous pain in their life that has impacted them. It changes the way they think. It changes the way they function. It changes the way they love. It changes their communication. We have more introverts now than ever. And it's not just because I'm an introvert. It's not just because I'm just quiet and don't like to talk. Because if I get to know you and I'm around you, I'll talk a lot. But if I don't know you or I'm not around you a lot, I'm not going to say anything. It's because when I've opened myself up, like many introverts, when you open yourself up and you get hurt, you're like, okay, I won't do that no more. So I think we have to start understanding that PTSD. Now that's when, anytime we hear PTSD, we always think of military. But I think a lot of humans have PTSD. PTSD is something that impacts your life that was painful or traumatic. And there are things that will remind you. So people who've been in the military, they'll hear a car backfire and they'll start shaking. I had a friend who any loud noise, if you killed a bug on the floor and you hit, if somebody slammed the door, a car backfired, they would literally start shaking because when they originally had a loud bang like that, they were blew up with people around them. So I think personally that there's so many people suffering from PTSD just from life. Life is hard. And anybody listening to this can relate to that. Life is hard, man. It'll hit you and hit you again and hit you again. And right when you think you're about to recover, it hits you again and hits you again. And that over time can start to damage us and start to hurt us. And we're taught by not most of us when growing up and definitely in society, we're just taught that being impacted is a sign of weakness, or there's a tarnishing, or there's a stigma around it. A lot of people have depression and anxiety, and the stigma around it will stop people from ever dealing with it. I have friends that have been smoking weed since we was 17, and they in their 40s like me, and they still smoke. Matter of fact, they smoke more than they used to smoke because in their life just kept getting harder. And that was how they chose to treat their pain. I think that the biggest mistake that we make as people is if I go through something, this is honest to God truth. No, I can't use that example. But I'll tell you this. If my father or my mother passes away, and then somebody listening to this or somebody I'm friends with, their father or mother passes away, and I try to force them to hurt like I hurt or to react like I reacted when the relationship was different, the circumstance was different, and we're different. And I just think that that's what we do. We try to put people in a box where if it didn't happen to us, then it shouldn't happen to them. If we can get over it, they can get over it. And I get that. I get that life ain't going to stop and wait for none of us. It's not going to stop and say, okay, let me let you get yourself together. Go ahead and take 3 months off work. As life, I'm going to pay your bills. I'm going to take care of everything for you. Just go ahead and rest for 3 months and get life don't work that way. Like, we understand that life literally does not work that way. But if you look at the disability claims in just the United States, a lot of people are on disability for mental issues, for depression, anxiety, and panic that is debilitating, right? And most people who never experience anxiety will tell a person right away, why don't you just calm down? Go, just take a break. And they've never had an anxiety attack. They don't know how that works. And then I've had people who were around me who, when I had anxiety attacks, told me every answer to fix it. And then when they had anxiety attacks, it's like, oh, I didn't know it was this bad. And I think as a country, as a people, right, not just the United States, the world, but everybody, as a people, we have to do a better job of taking the time to sit with people in their pain, to sit with people where they at, not judge them for being a certain way, not, feel like we get to dictate to them on how they should feel and where they should heal, and this pain that happened to you shouldn't be impacting you this long. We all know we done had that friend that got their heart broke and their heart been broke for 5 years, and everybody think like, okay, it's time to go ahead and move on, and everything is delicate. So the whole purpose of today's podcast, it wasn't to completely to define pain, or, and I know it seemed a little sporadic, but I wanted to kind of throw a whole bunch of different angles of pain, because it's the people listening, it's me, it's everybody's, our reaction to people, trying to have a little bit more sensitivity toward people's pain that we don't know. And the one thing that's important is, we don't know where one pain incident happens to a person, but they've been hurt like that 7, 8 other times that we don't know about. And so I just think it's important for us to start sitting where people sit. That means I don't judge, inner city kids. I've been in conversations where people say, oh, inner city kids, they don't need to be in the gang. They don't need to do this. They don't need to do that. They need to do this. And then if you actually go in the household and you actually go down there and minister and take a boy or a girl and put them under your wing and be a big brother or big sister, you realize it's not that easy, because everybody's circumstance is different. Everybody grew up in a different household. Everybody had different parents or guardians. Everybody had different financial resources. Everybody had different health resources. Everybody is different. So we have to do a better job of supporting each other and sitting where people sit in their pain. Sometimes you're not going to understand how somebody doesn't bounce back right away, or it's not going to make sense to you. The biggest way, the most tangible way to see this is just look at physical pain. Look how one NFL player tear their ACL, tear their knee up, and they take 1.5 years to come back. And then you look at another player like Adrian Peterson, he back in 8 months. Everybody's body heals different, and everybody's mind, emotions, their heart, their soul, everybody's soul heal different. So let's go out here and just start being patient and kind and sympathetic around the people in our lives, our family and our friends. So if you've been rough on somebody lately, and I can't tell you, some people need that hard push. Some people do need to be pushed a little bit. I'm just saying, if you've been rough on somebody, maybe it's time to ease up. And if you've been rough on yourself, maybe it's time to ease up. It took me into my 30s to ease up on myself, that I wasn't like everybody else, and things that hurt me, I had to deal with. So that is my desire for this podcast. Thanks again for all your support. Support the brand. OneMan3Podcast.com. OneMan3Podcast.com. Any social media, OneMan3Podcast. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. OneMan3Podcast. Appreciate all the feedback and all the support and all the encouragement. So until next time, thank you for allowing me to have your ear and your time. It is my honor. Next episode. Peace.